Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Social Workers Confronting Racial Justice Conference. I am Marcia Barra, a faculty member at the Sandra Rosenbaum School of Social Work. I want to provide a brief description of my appearance. I'm a woman with medium-length dark hair, and I'm wearing cream-colored leopard print blouse with fun, or at least I think they're fun, pink and white large glasses. I'm happy you are here with us for this breakout presentation on engaging the Latino community. We are providing live captioning and CART services, which are available by clicking the captioning icon. This presentation is being recorded and will be available on our conference site really soon. I want to begin with a land acknowledgement on behalf of the Planning Committee for the Social Workers Confronting Racial Injustice Conference. I ask that you join me in acknowledging that the University of Wisconsin-Madison campus here on the shores of Lake Mendota resides within the sacred homeland of the Ho-Chunk people, a place they call Dejo, or the Four Lakes. As the reach of the university extends to the far corners of our state, we also respectfully recognize the inherent sovereignty of the 12 First Nations in Wisconsin. Whether you're watching this from the land of these 12 First Nations, or are you more distant, we encourage you to learn about the history of the land that you are on. As social workers, we have a duty to look critically at the role of our profession as played in the attempted cultural genocide and destruction of Indigenous families. Such was the aim of boarding schools in this state and across the continent. This conference is rooted in critical reflection on our work as social workers. Our goal is to bring clarity about the past, but also to challenge and inspire us all to move into action in our work and communities once this conference is over. We hope this conference provides space for critical reflection, humility, and openness, which will allow us to all reflect, to hear and tell truths, and move toward action and transformation to support Indigenous rights, cultural and racial equity. With acknowledgement and gratitude, we move forward today in our journey. Before I introduce our speaker, a few Zoom information items. To access this presentation, you were required to provide your name and email. This allows us to log our attendees and email you information on CEUs, if you so would like them, for this presentation, which will be distributed at a later date. Your cameras and microphones will remain muted. We do have a question and answer feature where you can submit questions for our presenter. Please know that due to the large volume of attendees, we're not going to be able to get to all of those questions, but we'll do our best. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter, Hector Portillo, who is the Executive Director of Padres e Hijos en Acción and a member of the Board for People with Developmental Disabilities. Padres e Hijos en Acción is a grassroots organization of individuals with disabilities, their families, friends, and community members, building, fulfilling community-centered lives for Latino children. Mr. Portillo has worked with Latino and Hispanic families and other culturally diverse populations to provide information, resources, and support for families of students with disabilities. He is also the moderator of Padre and Hijos en Acción's radio show that takes place monthly on 1480 AM. He has presented at a number of conferences on this issue, and we are so fortunate to have him with us here today for this breakout session. Without further ado, please help me welcome Mr. Portillo and his presentation on engaging the Latino community.
Thank you for this introduction. You really mentioned everything about our session. So only just want to mention about me, yo, Director of Padres y Hijos en Acción, but also I'm a father of a child with disability. My son is almost 23 years old. He is autistic, no verbal. And they make me this kind of organization, found this studies organization is because there's a few services for my son after the 18 years old, and also there's a few opportunity for Latinos in the area. So I want to start with playing this video, and after that, I'm gonna start my presentation. This is Padres y Hijos en Acción, what I'm going to do.
Who we are, Parents and Children in Action, is a grassroots organization of individuals with disabilities their families, friends, and community members building fulfilling and community-centered lives for Latino children. Parents and Children in Action envision a world in which all people with disabilities have the opportunity to enhance their quality of life and strengthen the civic life of the community as a whole. By focusing on the assets of Latino children with disabilities and their family members, Parents and Children in Action are making the necessary changes to achieve racial equality by finding ways to include children within all ranges of all spectrums and their families in activities that were not previously available. Such activities include cooking, gardening, biking, jumping, park, and climbing. These activities are essential for children with disabilities, play, communication, self-help, independent skills, literacy, pre-vocational, and fine and gross motor skills. In order to better serve the Spanish-only speaking community, we make sure that all the information is available in Spanish. Materials are also available in English. Some activities and workshops that we held are the Healthcare Policymaker and Inclusion Workshop, the CCR IEP 5 Beliefs. Number 1, high expectations. IEP teams know how high expectations influence academic achievement and post-secondary independence and explore a shared vision of high expectations for college, career, and community readiness. WizPack Workshop. Children and parents gathered information and resources and learned that special needs trust help to preserve the assets of people with disabilities and protect their eligibility to receive means-tested government benefits. Gardening. Provide benefits not available in an indoor classroom. Benefits of gardening include improved motor skills, enhanced creativity, increased social skills, and improved self-confidence. Gardening also reduces stress and helps children cope with anxiety and frustration. Biking. Bike riding can fine-tune motor skills and physical coordination as well as aid with balance. Learning to ride a bike grows special needed kids mentally. Annual Christmas Party. The goal of the Special Children's Christmas Party is to provide children with special needs a day they will never forget. At the annual Christmas party, 300 people attended. We make of children with special needs and their siblings. We give away more than 200 gifts in the last 2 years.
Now we'll start our presentation, effective practice when working with Latino community. You will notice about most of my slides speaking about or refer to the students and teachers because my background is mostly in education. So most of my examples I want to speak or I need to speak only when I have expertise or I have some, I did in the past. So, one of the learners to understand the importance of the culturally responsive family engagement is those objectives in this presentation when it's going to be the ability to define culture and race, identify family engagement strategies that welcome, honor, and connect families. And in this type, no, there is no activity, but I want to provide resources for supporting culturally responsive family engagement. First, family-provided relationship. We believe, as a Padres Hijos en Acción, as a Latino, Hispanic family, the positive relation must be or must start with a safe, trusting, and culturally responsive environment in which both families and providers are empowered to open conversation, to share communication, two-way communication. So we need to create authentic, foster long-term relationship, not just the first visit. We're trying to provide long service to our families. One of the examples for the students is show how foundation growth is built in knowledge. So the interest of the students at this time, at least here in Madison, Wisconsin, and Dane County, the area I'm serving, there's a lot of diversity. families come from different countries, Honduras, Guatemala, Mexico, but even for Mexico, they come from different states. The culture or the values are very different. The talents for the kids is different. So we are serving only at this time people with disabilities or with special needs. So all those kind of information in the later you can play a video. Here's a link and how it will be the best way to start a relationship with the students. And at this time, discover the do's and don'ts to make or conduct business with the people of different cultures. Appropriate etiquette, body language. Most of the time with our families start the special education in the classroom. Sometimes the body language for the staff of the IP team does not reflect the values of the school. So most of the time, there's open conversation, there's a good to six, but sometimes because the language barrier, cultures and different goals doesn't work very well. That's why it's very important to meet or know the culture of the families we are serve. Doesn't matter at this time. I'm example for students and teacher, but could be in the health service. So in the health service, we have a lot of issues also, and especially when they use an interpreter or translator, or there is no who can serve the Latino community because they are interpreters or someone to speak Spanish. Sometimes or most of the time, the Latino community, the student, the families, they don't make contact only with the teacher or the special education teacher or the assistant teacher. So there's a lot of people around. There is secretaries, the cafeteria workers, security guards, school nurse. There's a lot. Most of these kind of people doesn't know about the needs for the students, doesn't know about the needs for the families. It's good to know a little bit or do some research about the different cultures, not only Latino, another one, but as a Latino, sometimes we feel like, especially with a kid with special needs, they are put in the shadow, that was separate. Nobody knows. One of the examples I want to mention, a few years ago, I was invited at the school to present what we're doing. One of my questions is, do you know how many kids with the special needs are in the school? No one knows in the room. No one knows. They never know the kids are in the basement. So I asked how many Latinos you know. Nobody knows about the kids with the special needs. So this is a part of how it's important to know all environment. So typically in classroom here, there's a students, 6 are white, 5 are African American, 6 Latino, and Latinos, there's different Mexican American, Mexican, Puerto Rican, Cuban, now for Honduras or Latino America. This honest American, second generation. So this is a typical room here. You can find in this kind of book with Oscar Jimenez, the information. Engaging the families, how to engage the families who language, English is the second language, or sometimes don't speak nothing. So be aware what communication and respect every step for the families. The difference in the background, mentioned before, in a Latino community included, sometimes people come resident for Mexico, and now it's a big wave for immigrants for Central America and Latin America, like Honduras, Nicaragua. Also, people born and raised in the USA, Spanish speaking at home, speak English home, both languages speaking both. Depend. There's a big diversity in their families living here in USA in the community. So, how to understand race and culture. I love this graphic because every family is unique. We need to understand about, I want to play video later. Doesn't mention a lot about education, income, marital status, but it's important to know the family or the Latino person you are meet, know a little more about every kind of things. Because an example here, geographic location, you can approach the same way people who come from Mexico, North of Mexico, or South Central Mexico to someone to coming for Venezuela or Colombia. Also, the education, you can find a lot of people come for Central America or Latin America. They have a highest in education. They have bachelor degrees and masters, sometimes master degrees. But a lot of people also they have only the basic. This is why different connotation in South Central America to Mexico or Puerto Rico. We need to be aware of the difference between each kind of word. So I want to play the first video, and you're gonna take a look and what's Latino or what's Hispanic, something like that. So
I'm gonna ask you, do you know what the difference between Latina or Hispanic and Spanish is?
Between Latina, Hispanic, and Spanish.
I'm gonna have to say where they live.
Okay, so like
Like, geographic.
I mean, they're just different ethnicities. I mean, between Mexican to Latin America to, European.
That was confusing. The general public and the media use both of these terms interchangeably, but there is a slight difference. Hispanic is a term that refers to Spanish-speaking origin or ancestry. Latino is a more frequently used term which refers to origin or ancestry to Latin America.
Does Latina mean someone who speaks Spanish? Because in the case of Brazil, you speak Portuguese.
Hispanic is basically based on whether you or your family speak the language of Spanish, whereas Latino is focusing more on geographic location, that being Latin America. So, unlike Hispanic, Latino includes Brazilians, but excludes Spaniards.
I hate when people call me Spanish because I'm not.
Okay.
You're Spanish because you're from Spain.
Spanish is from Spain, like
Yes!
conquistador, type thing. Europe.
I know a lot of people when they enter somewhere and they hear someone speak Spanish, like, oh, they're Spanish. And I'm like, no, they spoke Spanish too. Yeah. That does not mean that they're from Spain.
For starters, Spanish describes someone who comes from Spain. It's a term of nationality, but it's also a language. Think of Italian. It's a language, but it's also a nationality. Which one is Latina? ¿Por qué no es Latina?
someone in the chat or in the audience, let me know. Will you answer this question in the comments before playing again? No, I want to pause.
¿Por qué no es Latina?
Por el semblante de la.
¿No? But it's also a nationality. Which one?
Which one is not Latina? Okay, so everyone has their own answer.
Is Latina? ¿Por qué no es Latina?
Por el semblante de la cara.
Semblante que tiene más African features.
No se ve latina, no se ve hispana. Like she looks black.
Can you be black and be Latina?
I believe so, but some people of, Latin descent are like, no, we're different.
Those are the ones that have been colonized.
I'm not even gonna disagree with you there.
I think they all could be Latino. I feel like they could all be Hispanic. I mean, they all could be Spanish too. You don't know.
Yes! Perfect! You can't really tell just by a person's face whether they're Latino, Hispanic, or Spanish. Because many Latin American countries, like those of my parents, Colombia and Peru, were colonized by Spain, many folks don't feel the need or want to identify with a term that indicates them belonging to Spain. Maybe think of it this way. Hispanic, a sense of community through a connection to Spain. Latino, a sense of community through a history of colonization from Spain. Colonization isn't something that we just read about in our textbooks. We feel the effects of centuries of colonization today through lost history, erasure of native and African languages, faith practices, basically our culture. So it's no wonder why so many folks just don't want to identify with the term Hispanic. That doesn't mean that Latino doesn't have any remnants of Spanish colonialism. I mean, Latino and Latina is supposed to describe folks from Latin America, but the term Latin America only came to be after European Spanish imperialism. It's important to remember that none of these forms of identity are perfect. And that's because they're socially constructed and mostly only used in the US. They also lead people to assume that Latino or Hispanic is a race, when that's not true. Which is why so many Latinos with African ancestry have begun to use the term Afro-Latina. As for me, well, until a term that comes around that fully encompasses and embraces both the indigenous and African influences of Latin America, I'm gonna stick to identifying as an indigenous Latina. How do you identify?
How do you identify? It's good to make a question to the families. There's some question here. I want to go to the chat. Let's see. First, the answer right. You can tell by looking at someone as there's Argentina. Yes. You know, this is frequently here when we're trying to access to medical service, they assume or immediately they call someone to speak Spanish. My daughter, they grew up here, born here, and the first language, I'm gonna say the first language is English. They speak Spanish, but the first language is English. When we're trying to get some service, because how they look, they say, oh, it's Latino, wait a little bit until find someone to speak English, or wait for the interpreter. But this kind of situations happen a lot with the Latinos. So, again, how many Latinos are second or third generation here in USA, and the first language now is English? So they assume, because we look that way, we are Latinos. An example I wanted to make it when crossing the border, my father, he looks, he was white man, eye colors, and when we cross the river or the border, they always ask me, or I also ask my wife for my car or identify my ID. But for my father, they never make a question. So go ahead. They assume my father was a Caucasian or American man. So however, he's Mexican, he was Mexican, and even speak no word in English. So they assume, there's a lot of assumption when we're serving the Latino community here. And one of the things is they assume because everyone is Latino, they're need or are poor, or they're looking for service like insurance, rent, and everything. There's a lot of Latinos who I mentioned before is very well prepared, Latinos with a very good position, and also they have business. They need a lot of kind of difference. And as we work a lot with GFFF, Joining Forces for Families, with a social worker, and they know a lot of difference between one Latino and coming as Latino, Hispanic, because Latino is labor. used mostly in USA. So I want to play a second video, and the one is going to, you know, get more information, more scope about Latinos. Difference of the
My name is Adriana Vicuna, and my family's from Lima, Peru.
Both of my parents are from the Dominican Republic.
My family is from Mexico.
And my parents are from Mexico.
My family is from Mexico. My mom is from Guadalajara, and my dad's from Michoacán.
Latino. What's in a name? Regionally and individually, the terms used for Hispanic Latino population vary. Terms for ethnicity do not mean race. In census data, for instance, people can be Hispanic and white, black, and Native American, and so on. The word Hispanic is used consistently by government agencies. It implies a connection via the Spanish language, but isn't used in Spanish itself. The word Latino sounds more like a Spanish word. Latina is used to refer to women. Latino, Latina tends to be used by those in the social and educational services. In many cases, Hispanic and Latino are used interchangeably. Chicano is a word that is used primarily in Western states by multi-generational Mexican Americans. It often carries a connotation of being politically aware or active and gained favor during the civil rights movement. Many first and second generation immigrants prefer to highlight their country of origin, identifying themselves as Mexican or Venezuelan, for example, rather than a more pan-Latino identity that glosses over important differences. Mexican American, Cuban American, etc. also are used especially by the second generation and beyond. The bottom line, ask how people prefer to refer to themselves. What is culture? Think of culture as being like a tree. What are some of the elements of culture that are on the surface? What elements are below the surface? The parts we often see, the branches and leaves, are things like clothing, food, holidays, and customs. These are not necessarily the most important part. Instead, the hidden parts, the roots, are things like gender roles, orientation towards time or personal space, beliefs about education, attitudes towards in and out groups, values, even opinions about how the world works. These are not readily apparent to the observer, but often are parts that cause the most problems when we interact. Similarly, like a tree, culture is not a constant, unchanging thing, but rather is dynamic, growing, and changing. Any individual is shaped by his or her culture, but not defined by it. However, it is clear that the shared experiences, outlooks, and history of a particular group do have an influence, and this influence is quite important. It's easy to slip into categorizing and stereotyping based on superficial aspects of culture. Let's keep in mind, 100% of Latinos don't eat tacos 100% of the time. Individuals are unique, though influenced and shaped by their shared experiences, which are related to group membership, country of origin, language, etc. Latinos are not a homogeneous group. They are an ethnicity, and as an ethnic group do tend to share common cultural characteristics. Latinos and their families come from about 20 countries, but many have also been in the U.S. for hundreds of years, indeed, before the U.S. Latinos can be of any race. They can be of any social class, educational level, religion, sexual orientation, etc. Language and the Latino culture. While the majority of Latinos speak Spanish, there are vocabulary and usage. In many Latin American countries, other languages are spoken. Portuguese in Brazil, many Mayan languages in Guatemala and Mexico, Quechua and dozens of other languages in the Andes. Many Latinos in the U.S. are English dominant or speak English only. Understanding Latino cultures. Though country of origin, social status, class, and level of education also have a big impact on culture, there are certain cultural values, beliefs, and traditions that are shared across many of these socio-cultural differences. Let's explore a few key ones, all the while remembering to avoid stereotypes or assumptions about individuals. Familismo, importance of la familia, what it's all about. Being a good family member is important. La familia includes extended family, compadres or a good male friend, comadres or a good female friend, and padrinos or one's godparents, for example. Hispanic families also traditionally emphasize interdependence over independence and cooperation over competition. How it might play out. Living in the same household with a large extended family, sticking up for your siblings and cousins. Living at home until married. Contributing economically to the family even as a teenager. Putting the needs of the family first. Personalismo, focus on relationships. What it's all about. Building and maintaining warm interpersonal relationships. Developing confianza, trust, and confidence with people is important and worth the time and effort. How it might play out. Greeting each other warmly with hugs, kisses, or handshakes and asking about family before getting down to business. Showing cariño or caring in interactions. Having closer interpersonal space than in Anglo culture. Using your personal connections to get things done. Respeto, showing respect. What it's all about. It emphasizes one's place in a hierarchical relationship based on age, gender, and authority. Children, for instance, are expected to show respect to teachers and other adults. Bien educado implies well-behaved rather than well-educated academically. Frequent use of honorifics like don, doña, which are used with the first names to show respect to older people, or professionals such as doctors or licenciado. How it might play out. Avoiding prolonged eye contact is one way to show respect or deference. In formal settings with higher status people, like visiting a doctor, an individual may not ask questions, for example. In schools, parents may avoid questioning or challenging school personnel because they assume that the teacher is a professional and in charge of the education while the parent is in charge of the home. Religion and spirituality. What it's all about. The church influences family life and community events. Rich spiritual lives are many times deemed more important than material goods. The majority, but certainly not all, Latinos are Roman Catholic. In some cases, religious beliefs and activities reflect a melding of pre-colonial traditions with Catholic traditions. How it might play out. Catholic sacraments such as baptism, First Holy Communion, and confirmation are important spiritual passages. Religious leaders are highly respected. The quinceañera, a coming-of-age ritual at age 15 for girls, also has spiritual implications as a religious service is many times a part of the celebration. Machismo, traditional gender roles. What it's all about. Men are expected to be strong, manly, and work to support the family. A related concept is Marianismo, the idea that females should emulate the Virgin Mary. For example, they should be morally strong, long-suffering, and pure. How it might play out. Gender roles suggest if certain careers and behaviors are appropriate or not. Men are expected to be the head of the household and the primary decision maker. Female teachers or tutors, for instance, may not be given full respect by boys. Boys are expected to be and act tough. Girls are expected to be demure, chaste, and non-complaining. Fatalismo, si Dios quiere, meaning if it is God's will. What it's all about. An expectation that some things are outside of human control, and it should be accepted rather than trying to change the outcome. A willingness to accept social hierarchies that exist. A sense of uncertainty about making future plans as they may not come to pass. How it might play out. Parents may view kids' intelligence and school ability as innate characteristics rather than something that can be changed through effort. Long-term planning for possible future events may not be as important as adapting to the reality of the current situation. Some tips for applying what we've learned. Remember that these cultural values are broad strokes and will not necessarily dictate individual behavior, but they can help shape and explain the context for why a particular behavior happens. Take the time to learn about the community you will be working with. Where are they from? What are their values and expectations? If possible, communicate with the community members in their language. Work with and through respected community gatekeepers. Gain trust by showing respect, being personal, and keeping your promises. Acknowledge and respect the community's values and traditions, even if they are not the same as yours. Look for strengths, not just deficits. Anticipate situations where your and their expectations may be different. When a behavior seems strange to you, Consider the cultural setting before automatically assuming that someone is being rude or misbehaving. Gracias y buena suerte. Thanks and good luck.
Okay, I hope they like the video talking about. I want to talk about how many Latinos you know, how many families you serve or you are around the Latino community. When the organization or the system, the health system, or even the education system, they have a few staff for, in this case, for the Latino community, teachers and a few ones. Not enough, not enough teacher, not enough personnel who probably speak the language, but they know the culture, they know the values, the family. Sometimes when you or this kind of organization use an interpreter, the interpreter where come from? You're using interpreter who background is come for Bolivia and they're serving as someone for Puerto Rico. It's going to be a huge gap to understand it. So when you are serving the Latino community, you must to be sure about the background, learn a little more. This kind of some numbers that are in Wisconsin, 95% of the educators are white, 72% are females. So today, the Latinos in the country, in the county, in USA is over 50 million people. In Wisconsin, we are over 500,000. Here in the Wisconsin state and Dane County is over probably 40,000 Latinos. Most of the educators, most of the providers in health service are no Latinos. We need a little more work, a little more in that. So some numbers, the 2011, but it's still most the same. For you know, Mexican is over 245,000. It's Puerto Rican, Cuban, and now it's a lot that I mentioned before, the wave of Central American, South American immigrants. So what happened when this kind of people arrive here? When I say kind of people is nationality, okay? Yesterday we were talking about serving a family who the guy come from Honduras, and the first he doesn't speak English, second doesn't know nothing about special education, and doesn't know how to handle or navigate the system, how to live here. And everyone, I want to help you, and he never take notes. His background and education is low. I want to mention that one, and need to work a little more and concentrate what's the priorities for him, and also need to communicate the priorities for his family and share with the organization as are helping him. So communication is very important, and because he doesn't know how to navigate the system, the people who try to support him doesn't know how to support him. We need a little more. There's a proclamation here about Latinos, how they serve the nation, and we are always serving or growing or interact with different kind of activities. So entrepreneur, engineers. Now there are more professional. There are more people with a master's degree and PhD, but there's not enough. It's not equal the quantity of professionals we have with the white community. 51 million or 50 million. No, we don't represent now. So I'll speak or talk a little bit about family engagement. Family engagement is a key component to provide service to Latino community. At least for my point of view, what I'm doing in organization Padres Hijos en Acción, family engagement is the key. But the family engagement is a shared responsibility, not only for us to serve the families, and not only the families to come to us. We need to work together, create the bridge. You know, all the organization, the schools, everyone need to make a commitment to serve the families and also prepare, get a little more trainings, go to the field. Sometimes not enough, play a video, read a book. They need to go to the field to see what the families need, because due to the language, sometimes to the status, immigration status, they don't want to speak out. They prefer lost opportunities. Here in the Dane County and also Milwaukee, there are a lot of organizations to serve the Latinos. Multiple settings. One, this kind of organization I mentioned, ALAS in Milwaukee, Wisconsin Facet in Milwaukee. But here, I want to mention two programs. One is Padres Hijos en Acción. The other one is a Juventud program for Centro Hispano. So I want to play the video for my daughter and host the perspective of the youth people in the community.
It's a little hard for Latinos to know exactly, like for clubs, it's kind of hard for them like to fit in this community and for them to see what kind of job opportunities that they will have when they get older, and Juventud could help with that. I mean, it's a club where the Latino youth can come in and, you know, get an idea of what jobs opportunities are out there for them. I could do my homework there, and these guest speakers, they come in and I get to hear about different jobs, and that really interested me because I'm getting close to an age where I have to go to school and study things for a job that I want. Centro Hispano is basically like a big community building, and it helps keep the community together, and it provides like all these different clubs and activities and events that brings everybody in the community to there and just be together there.
Even Centro Hispano, Padres Hijos en Acción, they have multiple settings to adapt to our families for providing work opportunity, employment opportunities. If we speak about the families with special needs, there is minimum. Just a few provide employment opportunities, and most of those opportunities there are cleaning, restaurant, and a few in the office setting. So we as a Latino community, we are open asking for this organization or providers serving the Latino community approach to our organization who serve the community directly to ask how we engage our families. What's the best way to engage the families and also avoid mistake to making assuming things. Here is before that one, there's two models part in the school engagement. One is the school community partners model, Epstein. The other one is I wanna talking about Garza. Now, what we are doing as Padres Hijos en Acción, we are almost following the second one, Garza model, because say parenting, we see parents as leaders. We are providing workshops and leadership training. Every month, we provide education information on how to navigate education and health systems. Parents, we see the parents are collaborators. Also, we see a parents as teacher. The first teacher or kids, we are the parents. They do what they see. So probably we say, don't drink, and we are drinking. Don't smoke, we are smoking. Don't yell, and we are yelling. So this is looking for be a model for our kids, and also having a parent support is very, very important for our community, especially those who doesn't speak the language. Meet in small groups or in big groups when the parents have the opportunity to interchange ideas and support each other is essential. It's a key, also another key in our organization, how to serve the Latino community. And also, it's a few participation of the parents in the schools, or a few of the Latino community families are part of the councils or the boards, either in the education or the health system. So at this time, we are providing training workshop in the parents on how to serve in groups to make decisions. This we're looking for more parents be involved or be part of this kind of concept. Also, Padres Hijos en Acción and Wildman Center were in a community health solution, health equity. And we're looking for the parents we see as equal in when they take decision in the health system. One of the examples I want to mention now here is we have a family or no family with the kids in the hospital. He's for cancer, and the mom has the parents has the guardianship. He's older enough to make their own decision, but the parent has the guardianship. And nurse, doctors, they never ask the parents. They provide the service. In this case, the chemo or another kind of medication to the patient without asking the parents. So they assume because it's older than 18, the parents don't be involved. As a Latinos, the family is a priority. We are family. We're looking for family. We're looking for support for my parents. Most of the kids, a lot of kids, live in our house until they get married. So different to the culture here in American USA. So understanding for culture, you need to see what is my background. There are 3 points here you probably need to know or probably know about how to understand our families, how to welcome him, how to honor him, and how to connect the families. This is 3 points: welcoming, honoring, and connecting with families. See? Families are more likely to engage when you know who I am, you know my background, you ask me about my personal life, but not directly with a relationship. How many teachers or how many providers just take the name, see the Latinos, or as a number, see the families, see the students, see the clients as a numbers. We need to work a little more. Don't see us as numbers. We are human. Doesn't matter the race. Doesn't matter where I'm from. We need to be treated equal. We need to equity. We need to inclusion. To get the inclusion and equity for our families. You need to know the background. You need to know the heritage of the families. It's a little homework we need to do, but worth. It's an investment. You know, the school, I mentioned it before, what we do as an organization, we are changing that school change. Your family engagement is changing to low priority as a part integral of education. So family engagement for everywhere you can in the education system is in family engagement, but not only is all the workshop you having, what do you do in the practice? How many times the family night you are welcoming and honoring the families? What do you do when the family has stress? What do you know about the family who has been bullying? One of the students bullying in the school. What do you do? What kind of information provide? What kind of support you provide the families? One of the big issues in our families is mental health. Mental health sometimes because they don't feel like a fit in our community because they don't speak the language, because when they're looking for service, like in this case with members of the family in need for therapy, speech therapy, OT therapy, they are not providing this kind of therapies because the insurance. They don't have the insurance to cover this kind of needs, mental health, OT, speech therapy, and the family is looking for engage the school, but they don't engage the school because they don't feel welcome. They don't offer what is looking for. As an example, we have a few examples here and about bullying. Let me answer the question. Okay, so, it's a very good question. You know, when the people born here or raised in the USA, there's a little more traditional, less liberal. So there probably you hear about the woke, WOKA culture. In our case, we set rules in the house. You are my son, you are my daughter, you live in my house, I respect you, but you need to encourage to follow our tradition, to follow our custom, to follow our values. When that's happening here and some cute people grow up and have a different kind of thing, sometimes they refuse to speak the Spanish. Sometimes they refuse to speak Spanish because the pressure they feel, a social pressure in the school with the friends, something like that. But our Latino, what we're going to do is respect each other. Respect each other, but try to stay together in what we're going to do together all the time. So like the dinner, religion, and every kind of scenes. When I say that the word traditionalist, I want to understand is when people don't want to change. This as a father, let's not say I don't want to change. I want to honor my heritage. I want to keep my roots. The families of our parents, of whom I serve, they want to keep their roots. They want to keep what the parents teach them. But however, they want also to be part of this community and try to engage in all those activities don't affect the mental health, don't affect the dynamic of the family. So that's a little complicated sometimes, but it's no a problem in our family, Latino families at this time, in my point of view. Okay. One of the things mentioned before, the concept in our families, we have compadres, padrinos, uncles, grandmothers, grandfathers who are part of education. So the organization serving here in a community, not all have the same goals. Like Padres Hijos en Acción has a goals for serving the Latinos with a special need. Centro Hispano has another kind of goals, serving a youth people in an example that from what my daughter was like to program, preparing him to make better choices going to the school or the labor force. There are some another community organization who serve the Latino community in different ways, supporting to pay rent, supporting to pay bills, and another like a Latino academic here in Dane County, preparing the people in English classes to learn the English and how to enter the labor force. We need to, in order to serve better our Latino community, understand two kind of things: how to navigate or how to learn about the families, but also how to learn about those organizations are serving our Latino community. Sometimes there are organizations who doesn't know nothing about the Latino background, and because hires want to speak Spanish, they think they're serving the Latinos, but it's not. So making some connection, serving the Latino community require a lot investment of time, a lot of education, a lot going inside the network, going to gatekeepers who really are leaders in the community, who know, who understand needs of families, who understand how they suffer. You know, in general, those who want or need to serve our Latino community need to know more about the concept family names, and about the father model, the mother model, and most of the time, we as Latinos see the father as a provider, to want to protect, to provide everything. We know a lot of families here in area we serve, the mom doesn't work, they stay home because the father provides everything. The father has a 2 or 3 work. And but also we have a big number of the single moms because the father doesn't want to know nothing about the special need. There's a little more complicated for this kind of moms because they are a mom, father at the same time. And when they looking for information, sometimes needs a little extra support for like a EFFF, like Medicare, like a teacher, to understand the mom need to work also to provide the needs for the kids when they are single moms. Here's some kind of, again, this kind of pictures in moms, kids, daddies, everyone, fathers are around. And those kind of parents, they interchange ideas, and also we have a different kind of activities like art to express how the kids need to fit in our community. And sometimes in the schools, the fathers or the students need a little more trust with the teachers. One of the examples we have, the families say they move here the Madison area to Beaver Dam, because there's a little more of better service in Beaver Dam. There's a small district, and there's more opportunity for the staff, the teacher, to engage directly with the families. But also there's a lot of family coming from Reedsburg trying to move to Madison because they feel they don't have enough people or people with the capacity to serve the kids. They need to move because they don't having the service they need in the IP. And the IP is individual education program. It's under the IDEA. It's under the IDEA law, and the IP is required to provide all the service the student with special need require. So no excuses, money, staff, something they must provide. And here is why sometimes the students who need, or the people who need therapies, move the small or the rural areas to the big areas like Madison, Milwaukee, Green Bay, because there's not enough or is there's no bilingual, or there are no people who are prepared to serve for the Latino community. Again, I want to mention again about that roles. When we go back about the roles, first machismo, we watch the video and mention about machismo refers is do expect to the men to be strong with our providers. And on the side, the mom supposed to be sacrifice everything, but really most of the moms, the mothers, they stay home. Here in the families I serve, I'm serving over 140 people, and probably 100 families, around 100 families, the mom is at home, or they have only a part-time, so because the father has 2 or 3 works to provide. So this is considered before serve someone, what's the role each one. One of the things here, and the question before the tradition man or tradition person, something more liberal. But we're still looking for the religion. So we believe in God. Most of the people believe in God. Those who growing up here in the USA, they have a different kind of concept. However, they still respect the father. They still respect the mom. There's some rules in this house. There's some values. As Latinos, we mentioned it before, we respect family. Family is first. Family is the motor who keep us together, because different country, different language, different culture, different food, different everything. So we need to rely on our family, in our mom, father, sister, brother, uncle, nephew, grandma, grandpa, to still together to succeed. Well, after that, I want to mention some 4 strategies how to work with the Latino community. The first one is learn and explore cultures. All those we saw in the video, where I need to again to mention, everyone has different values. Everyone sees disability and different concepts. You need to learn and explore the difference. Well, also demonstrate respect for each one. As you know, some kind of words mean different for Latinos in Puerto Rico to Latinos here, and living or growing up in Mexico. So we need to understand each one. So how do you demonstrate respect? Because you see one Latino, not everyone mentioned the video, eat tacos. No, everyone is the commercial, the Taco Bell, one Taco Bell. It's a different. You need to ask what the preference they have. Even if they come from the same country. I want to mention Mexico because I grew in Mexico. I'm Mexican, but Colombia, sorry, is the same thing, has a different district and have different values. And even people are speaking with people for Bolivia, they mention the same thing. Oh, come from a different area. It's very interesting. I have been working with different kind of families for different countries since I started working as a case manager 2014, and I learned a lot. Not only Mexico has a difference in families coming from different regions. The question here is the educators or the people who serve in another Latino community is listening to learn from each other? The question is, can I trust you? What do you know about me? What do you know about my family as you're trying to serve the Latino community? Can I trust you? What do you offer to me? What do you need for me in order to work together, to have the two-way communication? You know, the knowledge communication and function needs of families, time, childcare need, transportation need, language difference, previous trauma experience. We have people coming for here serving, move to LA, to Madison, because a lot of crime, a lot of things like pressure, social pressure, something, or lack of service. They say lack of service, or a lot of gangs. They need to move in order to protect the families. But also, it's a single mom with 2 kids. How they got the shared care? How do they have transportation? If they don't have the documents to be here, they are not able to get a driver license. How to transport one place to another one? What they need in transport? They living in this area. I want to mention here, living in north side to south side. They live in north side, they work in south side. They need to use the public transport. It's almost 2 hours at least for transfer, something like that. But if they have their own transportation, they need to pay for insurance and other costs. So sometimes they don't have enough income pay for a good car, good transportation. So we need to ask the families about transport. As a Padres Hijos en Acción, we pay sometimes the taxi over some families to come to or gather to workshop because they don't have how to move. They don't have car. They don't have their own transportation. So you are serving the families, please take a look at about this kind of shared care, transport, these kind of things. Okay, how to improve the communication? Don't assume. What I mentioned before, don't assume because they're Latino, they need an interpreter. Also, time to make the call, or they send text or something like that. Mentioned before, parents, they have 2 or 3 words. The mothers probably the same thing, the single moms. And what's the best way, the best time to contact the families? Number 4, understand the point of view of the families educators. Mentioned before, how to welcome, honor, and connect the families. To welcome us to start the relationship, honor, deepen relationship. How to honor? Well, some people come for Mexico, again, Chihuahua State. What kind of food or what kind of hobbies they have, or what kind of literacy they like, what kind of books they read, or what kind of shows they watch in the movie. So like to honor and play and use this kind of food in your family nights. These kind of things want to link to better or connect the families. If someone is come from Puerto Rico and you try to provide them Chinese food, spicy Chinese food, either people from Puerto Rico don't eat something spicy, the food and Chinese food, and this time something spicy, the spicy doesn't want to work. This better know about the heritage, of the values, the background of the families. Again, we're close. Welcome, honor, connect. We need to in this case, the school communication improve. Invite the families to know the building. Invite the families to know the staff. Invite the families like meetings in the sky. No, invite the families all the activities the school has. Sometimes when I do or we receive, or the families who we have kids in the school, they send a flyer, they send a book, brochure, something information, but sometimes that's not clear. what the intention for the staff or the teacher provide. Some clinics are working and improving the health in our community, but how they approach, how they distribute the communication, you know, we need to lead, will to lead, and the skill to teach. And for this one, we need to build first. Whenever we build connection, how to build connection, to how to build a bridge between both cultures, between different cultures, African American culture, American culture, Latino culture. What's work? What is working and what's not? Oh, what can I do to build a trust with the families? You need to ask the families. You need to ask what they feel, what they need, what they want. Sometimes communication, verbal communication, and in-person communication or approach is better to make a phone call or send a flyer. You know, give the opportunity of building a bridge that is asking the families about the skill, about the strengths, about the concerns, what they need. So also there's also a video here you can play later and give a more insight in how to create the bridge with the common. Mentoring, we need a little more support. We need, you know, something to come to us and teach what is the best way to do something, or what's the best way to communicate, or what's the best way to support kids, or what's the best way to support teacher, or what's the best way to support or pediatric doctor for you know, health insurance or wherever we need to service, because we need to move. Everyone needs to move before the first and fears. You know, as a parents, we want to see a teacher as a partner, as a Latino families. We need to see a doctor as we see the doctor in our country as a friend. He is like a 50 minutes and just a number. We need a little more relationship with the parents. Let's looking for a health system. Consider our opinions. And how to outreach our families. You know, it's very important who is making the decision in the family. The mom, the father, or both? Who make the decision to involve the families in activities, any kind of activities? And again, some barriers to outreach Latino is language, the cultural social life, the economic status, the legal status, and also a lot discrimination in our community, a lot. Some recommendation here is identify the segment of the population that take time to learn, educate yourself, learn about language, ground, and communicate in their language. You know, sometimes if you send the information to our parents, a flyer, or someone is translated, be sure it's a Google translator, it's not a Google translator. Because sometimes they get the Google and we don't understand what they're talking about. And respect the culture, you know. Also consider empathy and respect. We're talking about empathy, not sympathy. There's a big difference and be empathic with our community to just, oh, I feel sorry. So also oral communication as a key connector, you know, on calls or prefer in person. I want to leave a lot of resources here. You can identify, you know, our family, PPI, and another one. So there are more resources. Try to get and how to engage our families. It's a lot of quarantines. This is the times. Marcy told me I want 315. I'm at 316. So if you have some question or something I need to go back, just please let me know.
Thank you so much, Mr. Portillo, for that fantastic presentation. If the audience has questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I think I have one to kick us off, which is, Mr. Portillo, could you talk a little bit about how you think culture changes with each generation and how that might affect in the future care of children with disabilities in the Latino community?
Yeah, that's very interesting topic. You know, when I'm working with the youth people as volunteers in my group, I ask them why they don't want to speak Spanish in the group. They say we feel a lot of pressure, social pressure with the friends, with the community, to speak only English, and also they feel a lot of pressure to follow the new culture. Like now, I want to say, it's very, very difficult for me to mention that one, but well, this would be agreeing. The environment. I want to use that the topic, the environment, to be, you know, the climate change. Now it's warming change, something like that. My daughter has a different point of view than mine or than my older daughter. So sometimes both they're working about climate change. My daughter said, yes, it's a climate change, but not the way you say. Because my daughter, she is now a new generation, they feel offended. You are offending me because you don't accept the change, the weather, the warm weather or something like that. There is a cause affecting sometimes the communication in the families, affecting and respect our families. Especially one of my participants in our group, I answered the mom because they say my daughter want to support this kind of situation. I don't want to do it. X situation because I want to say that the word Latins. I don't want to support the one Latins because even they give me a label as a Latino here, and now change to Latins. No, and the boy say you have to because it's the new, it's the new inclusion of the new values and culture and society. There is, I believe so, conflict and tradition values and the new values. So sometimes will be a break point in the values for kids because they don't have the roots. The parents do the barriers, they let the kids, or they don't have now nothing to do with education. The education system is changing, teaching different kind of things. Probably someone listening about parenting, the parenting is and it's a term used in Spain. I moved to Mexico, and also here is one say tradition or right side or whatever, right wing. And when the parents they want to be involved in kids' education, what's the curriculum, the kids' education, and even the laws here don't let the parents to be involved in the education. This is the difference. This is gonna affect him. It's going to affect the old people, first generation, to know the second, but the first generation and more. They're more involved, more willing to adopt the new values of this community than old ones. However, as a family, we sit together uh, as we try to keep the tradition of the values, but the new concept, the new system, actually, they're affecting affecting the relationship between our families, even in all members.
Thank you. Thank you. And one more question. I think we have time for one more question before we go. And during your presentation, you mentioned that some Latino families, parents or children might not have papers. They might be undocumented. Can you talk a little bit about how that might complicate social workers' engagement with Latino families who are undocumented in the community?
It's a very good question. I have a contact with the friends with a social worker. It's sometimes hard for them to provide a service because some families don't provide the right information because they are afraid. They don't have the right paper here. But however, if the kids born here, there's no big deal to provide a service to the families, because they don't apply they as undocumented people. They apply for the kids as American born. So there's a lot resources when the social worker they can send the families for health service to Medicare or something like that, because there are some insurance for people with no documents. There is also a lot of service. They don't ask for papers, and also there are programs they have the families to pay for rent or bills. You don't ask for the paper, or what the requirements is don't have the papers to live here. Or however, there's a lot of organizations like mine. We don't ask for papers. We serve everyone, and also we find resources for those people who doesn't has the right to be here. One of the examples, tomorrow we have planning to deliver a whole leave for people with disabilities on the wheelchair. They need to leave to move one place to another place. It doesn't have the papers. It's an expensive one, and the insurance doesn't cover. No one can cover. We got a grant to cover this kind of insurance, and also we will deliver a shower chair and a wheelchair. So what the social worker do is connect all these with organizations like mine, like another one, like Centro Hispano, another or Latino Academy, who provide service all those families with all documents or don't qualify for some needs.
Wonderful, thank you. That's great advice. I'm sure that there's folks in the audience who might not be aware that there are services out there for Latino families who don't have documents. Are there any other questions from the audience? Burning questions? We only have a few more minutes left. If you do have some, please put them in the chat and I will try to get to them.
Well, I like to mention before go, every county here in Madison, Wisconsin has different kind of service for Latinos or for communities. And the families are willing sometimes to move one place to another place to get a service.
Oh, wow. So that seems really important that families sometimes make decisions to move because they can get the services they need in another county in Wisconsin.
They do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not the big numbers, but they got the information. They took the decision to one place to another place to get a service for their family, the child with needs.
Wonderful. Mr. Portillo, do you have any final words for us? Any final words of wisdom for us before we head out from this breakout session?
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and but think about it about us, a human person, not as a race, not as a minority. We're looking for empathy. We're looking for a collaboration. We're looking for be partners in our kind of service and our kind of activities.
Thank you so much. Many thanks to you, Mr. Portillo, for sharing your time and your expertise and your valuable information with us today. And thanks to everyone in attendance for being part of this event and your commitment and efforts to confront racial injustice. Please watch.
Okay. Yes, I want to mention something. Fabiola Hanman, just make write something. Fabiola Hellman is one of the people who support a lot of Latino here, especially with those who doesn't have the right or the paper to be here. So Fabiola Hellman is another resource to Latino community in this area. But there's a lot in, like Hispano, I mentioned it, Centro Guadalupe, another kind of organization you can approach to looking for, you are a social worker, to looking for support.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's captured because this will be recorded. And so other folks will watch it and see the same information. Everyone in attendance, please watch for an email with a link to complete an evaluation of today's conference, including this panel. Also watch for a separate email regarding CEUs for those of you that requested them when you registered. We hope to see you next week on Friday, the 3rd, for part 2 of this conference. Again, Mr. Portillo, thank you so much for your time and your work. And we were so thrilled to have you. And thank you to everyone who attended. We look forward to seeing all of you, hopefully at day 2 of the conference next week.